Are we finally turning a corner? Hollywood fell off, we all saw that. And honestly, if you're anything like me, you barely survived the 2025 lineup of movies and shows. Now, if you're already scared of what 2026 might bring, trust me, you're not alone. A small part of me, however, feels a sliver of hope when I look at what's coming. Not blind optimism, because I'm still cautious and standards are still low until proven otherwise. But there is something different in the air. So today I want to talk about whether 2026 could actually be Hollywood's redemption arc, or just another year of recycled ideas, just wrapped in a shiny trailer. Now let's get into it. First of all, 2025 is the year of creative bankruptcy. But let's be honest, most major releases, past year were about as original as a $3 bill. All sequels, prequels, reboots, spin offs, live action adaptations, everything we've already seen somehow made worse every single time. And before anyone gets excited, don't expect 2026 to suddenly become different. From what we know so far, it looks like a carbon copy of the previous year. So then, why am I excited? Well, this is nostalgia done right, finally. Because it finally looks like studios might have learned how to use nostalgia properly. Not just to lure us back into theaters, not just to force us into buying yet another streaming subscription, but to actually engage fans again. In recent years, the only Marvel movies truly worth mentioning in terms of fan engagement, well, at least since Infinity War and Endgame, are Spider Man No Way Home and Deadpool 3. And they have more in common than just sharing the Marvel logo. They're both third movies in their respective series. They both feature beloved Marvel characters, and most importantly, they both bring back heroes from past movies, carefully chosen to maximize nostalgia without completely overpowering the story. And considering they both made over $1 billion, yeah, mission accomplished. But here's the thing, I don't think Marvel or Hollywood in general learned the right lessons from that success. Now let's talk Avengers Doomsday. Can you get too much of a good thing? Well, because now we're heading towards this movie, and from everything we've heard, it looks like it's going to be a massive mashup of basically every character that's ever existed in a Marvel movie. Now, the logic seems simple. If we put everyone in a movie, every fan on Earth will have a reason to show up. And look, I won't pretend that it didn't work on me at all, because it did. But I'm also worried because when everything becomes about spectacle, multiversal chaos, endless cameos, storytelling, tends to suffer. Character development also takes a backseat. High stakes disappear. And that's been the main problem with the multiverse. If there's infinite multiverse, who cares if we lose one? Emotional weight gets diluted, and those things are essential for an Avengers movie. But hopefully, my worries are misplaced, because if this movie fails, I'm gonna be so disappointed. After all, I'm positive because the Russo brothers, with Kevin Feige, have never missed. They worked on the Winter Soldier, where they worked on Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. That's pretty much a perfect scorecard. So maybe Doomsday and Secret Wars would be another honorable addition to this list. Well, we'll see. Time will tell. And even if half of the leaks are true, this movie might actually blow everyone's mind. Now let's move to the other side of the aisle, and let's talk about DC. Now the DC problem, I would say narrow it down to James Gunn fatigue. Now, on the flip side, all this hype for the Avengers and Spider Man strangely hasn't helped James Gunn DCU gain any momentum. If anything, people seem to care less and less about it, and honestly, I get why. This universe is slowly turning into a Guardians of the Galaxy knockoff, which makes sense because that's clearly the only type of movie that James Gunn, can do. But, so I said, the anticipation for this project is mild at best. I don't think I've seen anyone even remotely excited about Supergirl. And yeah, there was, I don't know, I would say um, mild anticipation after Superman, but it died down very quickly. Now, the writing on the wall is pretty clear. People, it's not just that they're not interested, the stories feel repetitive. The creative choices are questionable, like the lineup of movies chose by James Gunn. Superman felt unmistakably like his movie. And once again, we get the usual group of misfits who fight at first and then they learn how to function as a team and, they fight the bad guy together and they become a family. We've seen this movie like 1,000 times. Even Gunn's own Suicide Squad was basically Guardians in a different costume. Fans have been calling out the strange characters' portrayals on, the upcoming slate. Also complaining about the lack of cohesive vision because it looks like it's a bunch of projects that are technically in the same universe, but it doesn't really feel like it. And honestly, no one wants to see a weak Superman getting beaten non-stop, constantly needing to be rescued, acting like a spoiled brat, or losing his cool like an overstimulated teenager. That's not Superman. The reason people still love Christopher Reeve's version is the exact opposite. His stoicism, his calm presence, his aura of invincibility. He didn't just feel like a superhero, he inspired people to be better. I'll admit, like I felt for the whole, kindness is the new punk rock idea. It was fitting, and David Corenswet did a great job, especially as Clark Kent, but he lacks Superman's imposing presence. Every serious moment gets undercut by a joke. It's like the movie's afraid to take itself seriously. God forbid we have emotional depth or meaningful socio-political conversations in a James Gunn movie. They took basically what they did, they took everything Zack Snyder did in Man of Steel, including the good, and they flipped it upside down and created new problems of their own. They should have aimed, just somewhere in the middle. And that's why to this day, people still want Eric Cavill back over the new version. Now, another DC hero that's also gonna have some content released in the next couple of years, hopefully, is Batman, and especially Matt Reeves Batman, which is a vision that people actually care about. His Batman had a clear creative vision. He broke away from previous versions in the same way while still respecting the character. And he brought something genuinely new. That's what fans responded to. No, endless stone breaking jokes, no watered down heroes, actual direction. But what's beyond superheroes? Fantasy, sci-fi, anime, there's more brewing in Hollywood than just caps and masks. The new Harry Potter series is approaching the end of production, but unfortunately, we won't see it until 2027. Now, yeah, aside a few questionable casting choices, and you know what I mean, everything else looks pretty solid. Fantasy and sci-fi, though, not so great. Rings of Power continues to butcher Tolkien legacy, while Amazon refuses to cancel it. House of the Dragon is good, but still struggles to reach peak Game of Thrones popularity. Star Trek, well, officially dead. The peak, I think, was where Nerdrotic live streamed an empty chair with a Spock action figure and got 3 times the views of a Starfleet Academy's first episode, which, by the way, was free on YouTube. That is insane, but that pretty much tells the story of where things are at the moment. Now, on the bright side, there's Dragon Ball's return. When that's when fans actually showed up. But rather like that's this one franchise that's been around for over 40 years, and people still care about it. Dragon Ball Super is finally coming back after a long hiatus. We're getting a high resolution retelling of the Beerus arc, which at this point we've seen at least 3 times. But you know what? Better than nothing. And also the long awaited anime adaptation of the Moro arc, which is one of the best arcs ever created in the Dragon Ball anime. Direction Online was explosive. Fans went crazy, social media was flooded, um, and the cherry on top, Hans Zimmer did the trailer music. Yeah, that's wild. That was not on my bingo card. If Akira Toriyama were still alive, I'm sure he'd be incredibly proud seeing so many people still loving his creation after all these years. I mean, we've all grown up playing Dragon Ball games, watching the anime on TV, and we still showed up after 40 years to see the same exact story. Well, maybe not exactly the same, but with new characters, but essentially the same story. Now, finally, let's talk about the gaming scene, which is looking pretty good. Um, Although I won't go too much in detail here, just a couple of honorable mentions. Uh, Pokemon, probably my favorite game franchise of all time, celebrating a huge milestone, its 30th anniversary. Now, we can only hope they'll either release Generation 10, which I really hope is a step up from the last few entries, which were, I would say, lackluster to say the least. Also, maybe move forward with the next remake on the list, which I believe is Gen 5, or maybe even surprise us with another Legend spin off. As of right now, the only confirmed title is Pokemon Pokopia. I think that's what it's called, which is basically Pokemon meets Minecraft meets Animal Crossing. Not exactly what I was expecting, but it still sounds fun nonetheless. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, GTA 6, which is finally supposed to hit stores in November, or is it? And the anticipation is through the roof. Rockstar is bringing back fan favorite Vice City, where many of us, have wholesome memories of, stealing cars and killing prostitutes. Enough said. And yeah, I think they're going bigger and better. They're basically doing a fictional version of the state of Florida. They're gonna introduce Pride Parade, which yeah, it's not for inclusivity. Let's put it this way. Now, let's move on, and it's gonna be with the new Dragon Ball game as well, which is called Project 1000, which was announced alongside the new anime, but unfortunately won't be available until 2027. So all we know so far is that it's set in the future. So hopefully we won't have to start every single playthrough with killing Raditz for the 1,000th times. Next one on the list, there's the Mario game, which is always a welcome addition. And this year, Nintendo is coming back with a sport title called Mario Galaxy Tennis. It looks fun enough, to give it a try. Although, I don't think he's gonna reach the peak of Mario Kart, especially Mario Kart Galaxy, which was probably one of the best games ever. But still worth it. And we barely scratched the surface here. Out of curiosity, I went through the full list of games releasing this year, and I was met with what felt like an endless scroll of titles, like tons of new entries alongside plenty of returning franchises. So it seems like the gaming industry is on the same trajectory as the past years, which is literally dwarfing Hollywood with plenty of exciting content. But now, to wrap this up, what is the common thread, and why am I excited? Which I think the main reason is because I see a return to form. So yeah, what's the common thread in all of this? It's continuation, it's retellings, it's familiar IPs. Yeah, that's fine. Something that we've all complained about. But while that's not ideal, I don't want to focus on the lack of originality today. I want to focus on something else, which is hope. Hope that studios finally start respecting these iconic franchises. We've all seen our beloved franchises butchered, like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and so on. And I hope, truly hope, they really listen to fans this time because they really know better what they want. I hope they stop chasing trends and start telling, meaningful stories again. Hope they're getting these IPs right, inspires also a new generation of creators. They can build something original after this. So, yeah, 2026, you better be good. Don't mess this up. Because for the first time in a while, I'm genuinely excited to see what's coming. But yeah, what about you? Hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which project you're most excited for. I'll see you all in the next video.